Guys, what's up? What's going on out there today? Yep, Brent Abel here, webtennis.com, with another message, really important message that completely changed me not only as a coach, but also as a player. And I'm going to go ahead and lay claim to the term. Certainly in tennis, improv ain't funny. Improv, as in the comedy sketch type thing, improvisation. In tennis, not so funny. Not so funny at all. So look, let's dive into this today because this can make a significant difference in your game, especially for becoming a consistent shot maker. And by the way, if you're trying to get to that next level, wherever you are right now, that next level is simply becoming much more of a consistent shot maker with whatever current swing tech you've got. So here it is. Look, well, what's the problem? The problem is that inconsistent shot making, too many unforced errors, is caused by inconsistent spacing. Well, what is spacing? Spacing is that spatial distance away from your body to the ball when you make contact. And ideally, you're consistently creating that right spacing with your feet. But most of the time, here's what's happening is you're arriving either too close or too far away from the ball at contact. And because you don't move in a specific way that creates a visual lock on the moving tennis ball, right? Your footwork style is the thing that is consistently hurting your spacing. So here's the big challenge, right? In tennis, uh, we have two things that are different from other sports. Number one, you have to visually track a moving tennis ball as you're also on the move. Look, golfers don't have this problem, right? Ball's just sitting there. They get to move up to the ball, walk up to the ball, get settled in, get the right spacing distance away from what's going to be the eventual contact with that stationary ball, right? So they don't have the same challenge that we do in tennis. Baseball hitters have half of that challenge. Yeah, they got to deal with a moving baseball, but they don't have to run over to home plate to try to, swing, right? They get to be able to kind of get into their stance and then deal with the moving baseball, right? So look, if you don't arrive correctly aligned, spacing to the path of that incoming ball that allows you to then deploy simple and repeatable and sustainable swing tech, guess what? You then have a problem. Inconsistent spacing creates the immediate need to improvise. Here we go. Improv ain't funny. The immediate need to improvise your swing tech, and which once that starts happening, starts to lead to an awkward swing. Injuries, maybe. Okay, that could be one thing. Shot choice doubt and confusion, unforced errors, burns precious fuel from your tank, right? I mean, physically and mentally, when you're having to improvise swing tech, it's a stressful situation. And the bottom line is it just breeds a lot of low confidence throughout your game. And what does that mean? Well, look, low confidence from inconsistent spacing, it clouds shot choice clarity. What do we see? If you've been with me for any amount of time, you've watched any of the What's the Right Shot episodes, it's based on two things, right? It's based on number one, where do you want the ball to land over there? And then number two, where do you want to move to next? Well, look, if you're having to improvise, now all of a sudden the clarity for that shot choice, poof, it goes away. It blocks problem solving. Unique problem solving with that unique opponent in singles or the unique opponent in doubles over there. Inconsistent spacing, it starts to block how you want to attack these guys. The feeling that you've got to end the point sooner, right? I mean, low confidence comes from that. You have this sense that, you know what, I can't stay in the point. Don't want to stay in the point. The longer I stay in the point, something bad's going to happen. And yet, when you've got consistent spacing, now what you feel is, I can wait. I can wait for that real fat, juicy opportunity. Major frustration, right? Just throughout the game. I mean, because when we're making unforced errors, that's no fun. That's not good, right? It just breeds a lot of major frustration. So Look, what are the two main reasons for inconsistent spacing? Well, number one is when you're on the move, you're slightly off balance from your upper body. What happens is your initial reaction to the direction of that incoming ball from your opponent, either to your right, either to your left, or maybe it's coming right at you. Well, if it's to your right or to your left, typically what happens is your initial reaction to it is to reach with your hands and not your feet. And look, when you do that, you start to get your upper body slightly off balance. Look, Mac, my good friend Jim McLennan, wish he was still with us. Fortunately, the guy passed away a few years ago, but one of my all-time favorite humans in the world, but certainly a guy who helped me better understand Tom Stowe. His game was based on the Stowe stuff. But he once told me about a study. Now, this is a story. I've been looking for it, can't find it, so maybe it's a myth. I don't know. But I do believe it's true, and that is the Kansas City Royals did a study, the baseball team back in the day. And what they discovered was that if you get your upper body slightly off balance for hitters, right? So that if the pitcher could find a way to get you off balance, that 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 as the pitch was coming in, is that your eyes, if your upper body was slightly off balance, your eyes would look for a stationary object out there in the landscape. Typically, it might be the ground, right? Or it could be something else. But the reality is, a moving tennis ball is not a stationary object. So, look, we try to watch the ball and our opponent at the same time. And when we get off balance, you know what? We just don't make really great visual contact with that moving tennis ball. Look, getting back to Tom Stowe, I got really, really lucky in terms of being able to get with him before he passed away. And so look, the first 20 minutes of every session that I had with him, and this was a 3 hour session with three other guys. And the first 20 minutes, every one of these sessions is that we would spend that time rehearsing swing technique, right? Not hitting balls, but simply movement to the right or to the left that had to have perfect uh, posture and balance. He would stand out there in front of us and he'd just point right or point left, or maybe he'd point backwards or forwards, but whatever it was, you had to move. You had to rehearse a swing to the right or the left that had perfect posture and balance. And the constant message message from Tom was, you got to receive the imaginary ball into your ideal spacing contact point, feeling that perfect posture and balance. Any kind of swing where your upper body was not in great balance, man. I mean, he would, you know, the swing had to come out of that balanced platform without any reaching or any falling forward. And for sure, if your head moved up and down, Tom was definitely quick to fix it. So look, the big difference when you move this way, when you really move with great balance, with great posture, you visually track that incoming ball way better. So you consistently arrive to the ball with great spacing. And when you do, you no longer have to improvise swing tech. And that's when you become a really consistent shot maker. Unforced errors become rare. Your swing tech gets simplified, it gets uncomplicated because you're not having to improvise. You have clarity to make smarter shot choices. You conserve fuel. Your confidence goes through the roof. And this is how you can make all of this happen. I got two things I want you to focus on. Number one, there's a drill that I do frequently, at least once a week, if not more. And that is the fence to fence 120-foot sprint, right? Most tennis courts are laid out 120 by 60, right? So I start at one fence, get to the side of the net post because um, I'm going to sprint towards that opposite fence. Look, this is not an exercise to train raw sprint speed. Instead, it's an exercise to visually lock in a spot on that far away fence. The initial way to do it is you get to one fence, you find a spot on that opposite fence, 120 feet away. Could be a water stained spot over there. Maybe it's it's the crossbars from the structure of the fence over there. Something on the windscreen. Maybe it's a number, whatever it is. But hopefully it's about head high, somewhere where a typical tennis ball might be, or a little bit lower. But you first of all you walk. You walk for maybe 10, 15 feet towards that spot while you're visually locked on that spot. Then you jog a little bit, then you run, and then you sprint. And the whole thing here, again, is just not raw sprint speed. It's how fast can you move without that spot over there on the opposite fence bouncing up and down. And what you're going to find is when you walk, yeah, it's pretty still. Then you jog, that spot starts to move up and down a little bit, and then you eventually get into a sprint and it's just fluttering over there. And so what we are training ourselves to do is to sprint in such a way that spot is as calm as possible when you're sprinting. That's when you've got great posture and balance, and your head's just kind of floating along the top of you as you're sprinting. Once you do that, once you get to that opposite fence, then what I do is I turn around as I'm coming back towards the original starting fence, right? And I do a series of forehand and backhand volley lunge, right? Alternating, what have I said? Then come back to the starting fence with alternating forehand and volley. It should be forehand and backhand volley lunges while you visually lock on a new specific spot on that fence that you started at. So it's one thing to be able to sprint and keep that spot calm over there. It's another thing now to be able to go into those, and it's just dancing from forehand to backhand to forehand to backhand volley lunges where you're going down. That back knee's getting pretty darn close to touching the court, but you're trying to maintain that really good posture and balance as you're lunging into each one of those on balance forehand and backhand volleys. And I like to repeat that whole thing about 5 times, and I typically do it after a practice session. So the next thing is every warm up for me, and I'm going to encourage you to do the same thing. The number one focus, because I don't think it's like riding a bike out there, every time I warm up for a practice or a match is focused on number one, soft hands. If you get too strong in your hands, especially between shots, your eyes everything gets tight. Your eyes get tight. No matter how much great posture and balance you've got, if your eyes are tight, your face is tight, guess what? That ball's is going to be fluttering up and down. You're not going to have a great visual lock on it. So in the warm up, start with really soft hands in your ready position. As you turn to receive any kind of forehand or backhand, right? In the warm up, I want you to be feeling that perfect posture and balance. Create space with your feet, right? There's no reaching. Too often, I mean, and I used to do this. I'd be sitting there warming up and just reaching around with my hands, kind of telling my brain, "Oh, this is how we play tennis." No, what you want to tell your brain is that I play with soft hands. I have perfect posture and balance. I create space, that spatial distance away from the path of the incoming ball with feet, right? You're not reaching with your hands. You're receiving the ball into your ideal on balance contact point. Don't want to be too early, don't want to be too late. I am convinced that most players are too early with contact. They're over anxious. They want to get rid of the ball, and they're just swinging out into a contact point that actually pulls their upper body a little bit off balance. And the Fed head. Well, what's the Fed head? Well, it's that great thing that we've seen Roger Federer do forever, where the head right through contact, all the way out to the finish of your swing, it stays nice and still, doesn't turn like this to start peeking out there to see, hey, is my opponent still in the same spot, that when they were, 2 seconds ago? The answer is yes, they are. You don't need to see where your opponent is. You don't need to see where your target is. You already know in your mind's eye where that target is. And so you really want to reinforce that Fed head position through contact and out to contact, or I should say, and out to the finish, in every one of your warm ups. Tell your brain this is what you do at contact. So, look, I want you to start this now. This is super important. If you really want to be a consistent shot maker, what do we say at the very top? Becoming a consistent shot maker with the same stroke mechanics you have right now. Once you start making a rare unforced error and that's it, that's the next skill level up. So the sooner you habituate more simplified, cleaner, repeatable, sustainable swing tech, that's when you pare away unneeded swing tech, right? You don't need to complicate it. You want it as clean and as simple and as possible, or I should say as possible. You start to build some unshakable confidence for making the right shot choice based on your opponent's strength, their average, or their weakness, and a whole ton of problem solving. And once you become that player, because you're consistently creating the right spatial distance away from the path of the incoming ball, everything starts to clear up for you in terms of shot choice and in terms of problem solving. So look, I really hope this has been helpful today. Look, you got to get out there and you got to tinker, you got to experiment, you got to spend some time with this stuff. It's not brain surgery, it's not tough to do. Any skill level player can do this. But when you really focus, when you really get locked into moving in a certain way, right? That on balance, great posture, movement, position, that's when you make much better visual contact, watch the ball than you have. And when you do that, man, your spacing gets so much better. Swing tech gets so much more simple, and you become a real bona fide shot maker. Look, if you want to go deeper on this, if you want to dig a little deeper, I can help you do that. I've got 3 private one-on-one coaching programs. 2 of us just work together. And look, it could be swing tech. It could be one of your strokes that you really want to clean up. Maybe it's been a little overcomplicated over time. There's so much instruction out there that typically what happens is the instruction is not let's take away complicated, unneeded stuff, as opposed to, well, let's go ahead and add something to it. And that's where swing tech really needs a tune-up. It needs to be cleaned up. That's one way that we can do that. The next way is smarter shot choice and court positioning tactics, and then the third way is mindset training for building that kind of match winning confidence. Look, the best way to start, see if this might be a good fit for you, is we start with a complimentary, a free 15-minute discovery call. And you go ahead and lay out there for me what you want to get better at. Is it one of these 3 areas that I just mentioned above? Maybe it's something else that you want to work on. That's cool. We can do that as well. But you lay it out for me, and then I'm going to explain the kind of program I've got for you, and then you can decide if that seems like a good fit for you. Look, the best way to get started is with just simply, you can shoot me an email, Brent at webtennis.com. Let me know you're interested, what might be a good day and time for you, and then I'll get back to you and say yay or nay, or maybe we'll do something different in terms of a call, but whatever it is. Either you can shoot me an email, Brent at webtennis.com, or there is a link down below in the description area. Just go ahead and click that. That'll take you to my online scheduler calendar, and you can cherry pick a date and time that works best for you. All right, guys. Um, yeah, hope this was helpful today. As always, it's time. We have to get out there. We got to help someone else have a spectacular day. Guys, I will see you again next time.